This is Majak Radio.
In the Gambia, conversations around our democracy become more important than ever. Every election season, we hear familiar questions. Does my vote really count? Why should I participate when nothing seems to change? Is voting the only way citizens can make their voices heard? Yet history has shown us one truth. Democracy does not fail overnight. It weakens slowly when citizens step back, stay silent, or choose not to participate. Good morning, the Gambia, and welcome to the Civic Room, the space where democracy is simplified, citizenship is strengthened, and national conversations are brought closer to the people. I am Ebrima Mbaye, and this morning's discussion is timely, relevant, and necessary as we move closer to another important electoral moment in our country. Our focus this morning is simple but powerful. Why does citizens' participation in election truly matter? Is participation only about voting on election day? What role do trust, education, and accountability play? And what happens to a society when citizens disengage from the electoral process? Before we bring you our guests into this conversation, listeners, let's step outside the studio and hear directly from the people. Over the weekend, we asked ordinary Gambians one simple but important question: why do you think citizen participation in election matters? Here is what they had to say.
Well, I believe it's very, very important because it is our voice as citizens of this country, and I believe it is the only legitimate way to change government, and it is important that citizens take ownership of the leadership of their country because if you want to make a change, or probably you want to contribute to the development of the country, voting is one of the ways that you could actively participate in the decision-making process of a country. So I believe voting in elections is one way your voice can be heard, and the importance of that cannot be overemphasized.
I believe it is important for citizens to take part in elections. Let's say you are not taking part in elections. It's basically giving up and allowing people to decide on your future. Voting is basically the most direct way we shape our society, because when we vote, we're choosing our leaders who represents us, represents our needs, protect our rights, and make decisions that affect our daily life.
Why citizens should involve themselves in elections? Number one, it is to influence the decisions that are made in governing them. Number two, it promotes democracy. The way we elect our leaders, the way we want them to govern us, also determines that very core of democracy.
It is very important for citizens to take part in elections because I believe their vote is what speaks for them. Because at the end of the day, whatever government we put into power should be accountable to the people. How are we going to make them accountable? That is through our votes. It also empowers democracy. Taking part in election is actively taking part in decision making.
I think it is important for citizens to take part in elections because that is how we make our voices heard. Voting gives us the chance to choose leaders who will make decisions that affect our lives every day. When people vote, it helps strengthen democracy and hold leaders accountable. But when citizens don't participate, they leave their future in the hands of others. That is why everyone should take elections seriously and come out to vote.
Those are the voices of Gambians reminding us that democracy works best when citizens are involved, not just during elections, but beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me in the studio this morning are two individuals deeply involved in civic education and human rights advocacy. We have Madam Mariam S. Gay, a Civic Education Officer at the National Council for Civic Education, an institution at the forefront of promoting informed and responsible citizenship. And also we have Mr. Omar Saibo Kamara, a human rights activist, and of course a transnational governance expert, widely engaged in issues of governance, accountability, and citizens' participation. Welcome to the Civic Room, Mariam and Omar, and it's a pleasure to have you here today to discuss this important topic.
Thank you very much, Ebrima. And sorry for my voice, excuse me, I have a really bad cold. I just hope it's not contagious enough to infect others. But thank you for having us as well. And I believe, like you said, it's
core time to have these kind of discussions, since it's election year. It's 2026 and everything is revolving around elections. So thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Ebrima, for having me, and good morning to the beautiful listeners out there. It's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to a truthful discussion.
Indeed, and thank you for honoring my invitation. Indeed, as elections approach, one issue that often comes up is voter turnout and public engagement. Many citizens express interest in outcomes but remain distant from the process itself. So we would now dig deep down into the whole thing, and we will start with Mariam S. who is a civic education officer at the National Council for Civic Education. Mariam, from a civic education perspective, why is citizen participation in election important? So important for a healthy democracy like us.
Thank you very much for that question, Ebrima. Election and citizens' participation in election is quite key, because who is election held for? It's for citizens. And who are the citizens? The people. When we go for elections, what do? We elect. Who do we elect? People that are responsible for making decisions on our behalf. But why do we elect them? To do what? To serve us. How do they serve us? This is why elections is important and participation is important. Because like the survey you did, I've heard a lot of them talking about it's good, they make decisions on our behalf. But is that the only reason why we go for elections? No. When we select or when we elect these leaders in these positions, what do? They are there to carry out a mandate that they have. But then again, as citizens, when we participate in these elections, it does not only stop there. We have to actually be the accountability mechanism for these leaders that we elect. We're supposed to be the oversight bodies as well. And then it's important that we elect these people so that they can actually be at the forefront, because not each and every citizen cannot be at the forefront. We need to elect a few that we believe are capable enough to be in this position. So when we elect them and then have them at the forefront, we should not also fold our hands and sit behind. What we do is we become accountable, because if you elect a person, you participate in elections, you elect a person and you see that that person is actually not doing what they're supposed to do or what is expected of them, then you become accountable for them, and then it enhances the legitimacy of a government. Election enhances democracy. Without elections, there's no democracy. You cannot have, like in the Gambia, constitutionally we go for elections every 5 years, so it is important. So when we participate, if election comes and no single citizen goes out to vote, who is in charge? That's a big question.
Absolutely.
So that's a big question. Who is in charge and why are they in charge? So people should actually go out and vote. It's important to legitimize a government, because we need legitimate governments to have democracy, because it's what the Gambia is fundamentally based on. And also we have the expression of the popular will of the people by participating. Like Gambia, we have simple majority. In other countries they have a different facet of how things function. But in the Gambia that we have a simple majority, when the bigger number wins, it means that those that have elected have come out. Not saying that those that did not vote for the ruling people, they haven't participated. They have participated, but then again, on the upper hand, people that have the greater majority are actually in charge. So those are one of the reasons why it is important for people to actually participate.
Yes, of course, you did mention something very important, which is accountability.
Yes.
For the case of Gambians, at times when we vote, most of us, fold our hands to say, it's okay, what I have done my part, I have voted, this party to be in office. So after all, we do not consider checking on what the person is doing, what are the promises that the person has promised and is not yet fulfilling. So from a civic education perspective, and of course your institution being a national body, what steps are you taking to ensure that citizens who think elections only engage is only about voting? Because if you look at election, we have three main stages. We have the election stage, the election day in fact, and of course post-election. And what you're talking about accountability falls on the post-election, where you check on the people that you vote. So what has been the role of your institution to ensure that the citizens are also enlightened about this?
Well, our institution in particular we go on all three phases of this election that we're talking about. That's the pre, the election, actual, and the post-election. The pre, we do the voter education and then like telling people the importance of voting. And then during election as well, election day, we tend to see if people have actually adhered to what they have been sensitized on. And after elections, which is the post-election, which takes a longer time than the election cycle, which is just a few months, wherein you do the pre, the campaign, and then all of that. But then again, now the big case is after elections, after electing these people, what happens? We go back to the people and tell them that you elected these people, these leaders in place, and then there are laws that are guiding them. You're supposed to be the oversight bodies, which is why we're citizens. All of us cannot be in these places or in these positions, but then again, the citizen, the general citizenry, should actually take responsibility to see that those in power or those that have been elected are acting according to the laws of this country, and they are not doing anything in contravention. Are they adhering to democracy? Are they actually taking the actions as per what they have said before? Then again, we know sometimes things go otherwise, but then again, our responsibility is to actually sensitize the people to know that it does not stop at election day. I've elected, either my candidate has won or not. You don't have to fold your hands. You actually have to take action. You can be in the same cohort or in the same, wing as the person you've elected and they won. That doesn't mean that whatever they do is right. You should actually serve as an oversight body. We inform people that citizenry are the oversight bodies. Yes, we have institutions responsible, but the population itself should also take action in this.
Thank you, Mariam. And now we've shifted our attention to Mr. Omar Saibo Kamara, of course, a human rights activist. Saibo, you've been usually saying 2025 year of accountability, and now we are in the year 2026. So from a human rights standpoint, how does citizen participation in election strengthen accountability and limit abuse of power?
Thank you very much, Ebrima. First, I will have to acknowledge that I remember when I was doing my master's program, one of the biggest debate we had in our transnational democracy class is that is elections enough to validate democracy? And this is always the most heated debate. And what is acceptable universally is the fact that the only democratic principle that is accepted regardless, nobody will say, okay, we can challenge elections, but nobody can say election is not what drives democracy. We can say, okay, Saibo went to the streets to protest. Somebody can disagree that protest is not the best way to promote accountability. Somebody can come to a radio program and then say things, but elections is the biggest tool for accountability. This is the only time that everybody agree to go to the polls and then to vote, to validate or to reject a particular leader based on performance and based on their leadership style. So I think elections is as important as any other principle, and this is what drives democracy. And from a human rights perspective, accountability comes in a various ways. If you look at governance, one of the biggest, my mom cannot go to the streets to protest, and for my mom to show her grievance, probably the only opportunity she has is elections. So elections becomes the biggest accountability tool for citizens, and that is why it is fundamental that citizens, that regardless of our affiliations, that we take elections seriously and we participate in elections both pre, post and during elections, right? And then also it promotes lesser entrenchment and abuse of power. That is critical actually from a human rights perspective, because we can still vote and then disagree that the person we vote for probably is still abusing power. But what election does is, if you go to the polls, and also just to give a context, elections is not just the voting part. Let's say for example our electoral laws today, what that give us, the kind of power limitations it gives to the authority, and also our constitution and things related. Let's say for example elections is the only thing that promotes term limit, and term limit is one of the biggest tools to prevent abuse of power. Absolutely. Because fundamentally the more you stay in power, technically the more you become entrenched, and then the more you tend to abuse that power, the more you tend to dodge away from accountability, the more you tend to be a dictatorial president or leader. So I think elections is fundamental in promoting accountability. It's the only way Gambians or citizens across the world will agree to go to the polls regardless of our differences, to say whether I'm going to vote for Saibo or Ebrima or Sang, I am going to the polls. and I want to make a decision, and these decisions have and entail a greater part of accountability, and also elections reduce abuse of power. If people think that a president is being abusive, a president is being entrenched, a president have stayed too long, we go to the polls and remove you, and we have curtail your powers, right? And also elections make and help us inform decisions that actually promote policy lines. Let's say, for example, when you go to the polls and vote for National Assembly members, the kind of policies they make that includes accountability policies, that include regulatory frameworks, still reflect on our decisions as elections. And only elections give us that opportunity also to do. So I think generally elections is the biggest accountability tool and deprivative tool also from abuse of power.
Saibo, interesting. For the past election that happened here, the December 2021 presidential election, of course, after that we have the parliamentary election and we have the local government election. It was the president election in which the voter turnout was good, on almost 81%. But after that, the parliamentary election and the local government election, the turnout tend to reduce gradually. So, what could this cause? To a country where citizens, turn low in during voting time.
Ebrima, we are still a very premature democracy. We are still trying to build our democracy, looking at our political history of 22 years of dictatorship, and people were fatigued and tired, and there is low voter education, even though the NCC have been scaling up, but there's still more to be done. And sometimes also it's not just because we go to the field, it's also how people understand this thing. So let's say, for example, first, it is exhausting to have an electoral cycle of 3 years. Presidential elections in a year, parliamentary elections in a year, and local government election in a year. People get tired.
So are you suggesting that?
I think we should compress our electoral period, even though we don't have to do them all together, because as we speak we cannot do that. We are still with the marble system. It becomes difficult to vote for both presidential and parliamentary and local council at the same time. But look, we do one in 2026, end of 2026, we can do the rest in 2027 and get it done. Otherwise people get fatigued and people get tired to go to the polls every 6-8 months to vote for their leaders. That is one. I think we need to look at that. That's one of the reasons for low voter turnout. Two, scale of reference. A lot of people think presidential elections is the most important.
Absolutely.
If we vote for a president, that is enough. The rest, they can do what they want to do. We don't care. But they need to understand that these are arms of government, and each of them is fundamentally important, especially the parliamentary elections and the local council elections. And then that is more connected to the grassroots. That is more connected to us. That are the people that are directly sleeping with us, working up to us, and know our issues. But I think the whole issue is fatigue in electoral process, long electoral process, and also the understanding that, okay, we vote for the presidential elections and that should be enough. I think the awareness raising now should shift from just you have right to vote to you understanding the purpose of why you vote and the purpose of why we have all of these voting systems and all of these voting positions, and why each of them are fundamentally 100% important. Presidential elections is no important than the parliamentary elections, and the parliamentary elections are no important than the local council elections, because they all have their fundamental functions in society and one cannot function without the other. So they are equally important, and these are the messages that people must understand for us to scale the voter turnout from the presidential elections to the parliamentary and to the local council.
Thank you, Saibo. Interesting. So a great concern in our society is voter apathy, especially among young people. With many saying, "My vote does not change anything." So to Mariam, how do civic institutions respond to citizens who feel disconnected, distrustful of electoral processes?
Well, I think generally the population, or thus marginalized group, tend to sideline themselves most of the time. But as an institution, what we do is, what is the reason and the cause for this sidelining, and why is it that they feel disconnected? Because if a person feels disconnected from a particular process, there must be a reason or a cause for it. Like you said, most people would be like, or most young people would be like, my vote cannot make a difference. But guess what? A single vote, one vote, can make that difference, can make you change a leader, because of the type of system that we have. So as an institution, usually we go to these places and these communities, because after elections there's a breakdown of where or which community or which constituency or which area has the highest number of votes. You compare, and then you know where the voter turnout is more. And then, yes, we cannot justify that actually the youths came out more or less because we only have the numbers. But when we go out, we give them reasons, and then we explain why there is a need for all of them to come out and vote. Because as young people, sometimes we feel disconnected with elections. We feel that it is not a responsibility to elect leaders, especially the first-time voters. They're like, is it really important for us to go out and vote? How important is it for us to go out and vote? But guess what? That is where you start. And like he said, like Saivo said, it's important that people understand that both presidential, National Assembly and local government are all important. All three are important because guess what? It's a chain work. It's a chain work. You vote for the president, you don't vote for the local councils that have to deal with your personal matters.
It becomes a problem.
It becomes a problem.
Absolutely.
Because in my community, the president does not come down to my community to address my issues. It is the council that comes out to address my issues.
Indeed.
So we tend to go out more during these local elections, be it chairmanship, mayoral, and local government, just to make sure that they understand how important it is to vote. But then again, I think we have more people, maybe compared to previous elections, to 2021, the electoral cycle, there has been actually an increase in the voter turnout. And hopefully, maybe 2026, we'll see more. Yes, we're hoping to see more. But then again, people are resistant to change. Whenever they have a hold on a particular perspective and a particular view, it takes a lot of time to actually convince them.
That's a problem.
Yes.
That's the Maria, we're running out of time. So we just, I take a short break and we'll be right back in the studio. Indeed, now we would, love to, open the lines for our colleagues in class who wish to participate in this discussion. We just take two callers, and then if you want to call, listeners, you can call on this number 3027047, 3027047 to be part of the discussion. So moving on, Omar, while we anticipate callers, beyond voting, what practical ways can citizens remain actively involved? You've mentioned that protest is one of the ways, but do you have also another, a systematic, means that we can use? Hello, I think right now we're having a caller. Hello.
Hello, Ebrima. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
I have a question for Saivo.
Okay.
Saivo, what do you do in making sure young people participate in elections? Are they active?
Thank you. Saivo, that's a question.
All right. I think first we need to understand the youth demographic in the Gambia, that we continue to say we have the highest percentage, 60%, 65% of the population are young people. But also we need to understand that either conventionally and non-conventional education, young people tend to be more aware of issues because of the connectivity of the world, the internet era, the technological area, and all of that. So we tend to understand issues more. And then one of the fundamental way to participate in election is not just to have to go to the polls and vote, but how do we actively take part in politics? How do we contest for political positions? How do we ensure that we join political parties? How do we ensure that we join the forces that create the awareness? Like NCC is an institution that is funded, and then we cannot have money to go to every corner of this country, and that's where the role of young people come from, local level to national level. What we're supposed to do is that we need to take charge of this country, and in taking charge of this country as young people, we must actively take part in politics, and that comes down to how do we actively take part in electoral processes, taking positions of leadership, political positions, non-political positions, voting, sensitization, ensuring that we create awareness. Young people tend to be, since primary school, we are the cream of society, we are the future leaders. We are not future leaders. We are the leaders today that shape the future for generations yet unborn. So it becomes fundamental that we understand. But first for young people to be able to participate in politics and elections, we must be self-aware, self-actualization. What is our purpose? What do we need to do? And then we must educate ourselves first. And always, often when we say education, it does not mean Cyber got a master's degree. That's not education. Education is not just the paper and the degree. It's how much do you understand and aware of your society, and how do you want to contribute towards the betterment of that society. And elections comes in and politics comes in. I think that's a
thank you, Cyber. Indeed, education is not the only means, but of course, how do we do it is also something quite important. So to Mariam, we've now had we have a caller, but I'm afraid that we can take any call for now. Time is against our side. Mariam, we've talked about importance of taking part in elections. But now, can you just tell us from your own perspective, just in 1 minute, what future problem could this cause to a country if citizens are not willing to take part in elections?
We could actually have an issue with electing capable leaders, and like he said, having accountability issues, and then the rule of law, and having bad leaders being kept in power, which is actually one of the detriments of democracy. When we have a bad leader in power for a very long time, we could see that actually that could hinder democracy, which is very bad. So not participating is actually at a higher detriment to the country and to the population at large.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we wish to continue this discussion, but time is of course not on our side. So Saibo, just a few seconds. What is your final say to young people listening to this program on the importance of taking part in elections?
My last words are simple, that the future of this country lies in the hands of young people, and we don't do this just with mics and on the streets and the televisions. We must do this collectively through empowerment, through participation. And when I say participation, always, if we want to change a leader today, we will change as young people. We have 60%. If we want to vote out a leader, we'll vote out a leader. If we want to keep a leader, we will keep a leader. So what is more important is, let's join politics, let's take leadership roles, let's change the society.
Thank you, Saibo. Mariam, just a few things. We have less than 2 minutes to go.
The thing that I'd want to say is people should actually be invested in democracy and elections, be it young or old. Everybody should take part in elections, as per that's what governs the state and what makes Gambia a better country.
Thank you, dear listeners. This morning's conversation reminds us one of the powerful truths. That is, elections are not just days on a calendar. They are, they are expressions of citizens' power. When citizens participate, leaders listen, and when citizens engage, democracy grows stronger. And when citizens withdraw, democracy weakens. As elections approach, participation becomes more than a right; it becomes a responsibility to our future. And of course, my sincere thanks to Madam Mariama S. Gay from the National Council for Civic Education for joining me in this studio, and of course for taking the time to discuss this insightful discussion, and of course to Mr. Omar Saibo Kamara for being available, and of course for being part of this quite important discussion. And to you, our listeners, we've not forgotten you. Thank you for listening, and thank you for tuning in. Just to remind you, this is a program that comes every Monday from the time 10:15 to 10:45 a.m. on Majak Radio 92.2 FM. Your vote is your voice, your participation is your power. Use it wisely. This has been the Civic Room. Until I come your way next Monday, same time and same frequency, I am Ebrima Mbaye, and have a great day and stay civically engaged. Thank you.
This is Majak Radio.